Imagine discovering a tropical island paradise that most travelers have never even heard of. Not visited, not photographed, not added to a bucket list. Simply never heard of. In an age when nearly every corner of the world has been geotagged, reviewed, ranked, and transformed into social media content, finding a genuinely overlooked destination feels almost impossible. Yet, such places still exist, and one of the most remarkable is hidden in plain sight. Floating in the Gulf of Guinea, just off the western coast of Africa, lies a nation so small and so rarely visited that many people couldn't point to it on a map. Its beaches rival those of famous tropical destinations. Its rainforests teem with rare wildlife. Its volcanic peaks rise dramatically above emerald jungles. And its history contains stories of exploration, empire, slavery, independence, and resilience. Welcome to São Tomé and Príncipe, one of the least visited countries in the world, and perhaps one of the most fascinating. The first mystery surrounding São Tomé and Príncipe is remarkably simple. Why don't more people go there? The islands possess many of the ingredients that usually attract global tourism. Warm weather, beautiful coastlines, unique culture, extraordinary biodiversity, political stability, friendly locals. Year after year, visitor numbers remain tiny compared to famous island destinations. While millions travel annually to places like Hawaii, Bali, or the Maldives, São Tomé and Príncipe quietly exists beyond the spotlight. For some travelers, that's exactly the appeal. Because long before tourism brochures existed, these islands occupied a very different role in world history. Unlike many places that have been inhabited for thousands of years, São Tomé and Príncipe were originally uninhabited. No ancient kingdoms, no indigenous communities, no forgotten civilizations hidden beneath the jungle. For most of human history, the island simply sat alone in the Atlantic Ocean. Volcanic mountains surrounded by endless water, untouched and isolated. That changed during the age of exploration. In the late 15th century, Portuguese navigators arrived. Europe was entering a period of maritime expansion. Explorers searched for trade routes, resources, and strategic locations. The islands quickly attracted attention. Located near the equator and positioned along important Atlantic routes, they offered both opportunity and convenience. At first glance, they must have appeared almost magical. Dense forests covered much of the landscape. Freshwater streams flowed from volcanic mountains. The climate supported abundant vegetation. Everything seemed green. Everything seemed fertile. The Portuguese established settlements, and over time, São Tomé became one of the world's earliest large-scale plantation economies. Sugar production expanded rapidly. With that expansion came one of history's darkest chapters: the transatlantic slave trade. Enslaved Africans were brought to the islands to work plantations. The wealth generated by sugar transformed São Tomé into an important colonial possession. But prosperity came at an enormous human cost. Like many places shaped by colonial agriculture, the islands carried a complicated legacy: beauty and tragedy, natural abundance and human suffering, opportunity and exploitation. These contrasts remain woven into the nation's history. Yet, history has a way of changing direction unexpectedly. Just as São Tomé became a major sugar producer, competition emerged elsewhere. Brazil began producing sugar on a massive scale. Economic advantages shifted. The island's importance declined. For a time, São Tomé faded from global attention, but the story wasn't over. Another crop would eventually transform the islands once again. Chocolate, or more specifically, cacao. By the late 19th and 20th centuries, São Tomé and Príncipe had become one of the world's leading cacao producers. At one point, these tiny islands were among the largest cacao exporters on Earth. Imagine that for a moment. One of the smallest countries in Africa helping supply one of the world's most beloved foods. Chocolate lovers everywhere may have unknowingly enjoyed products connected to these remote volcanic islands. The landscape still reflects this history. Scattered throughout the islands are rocas, large plantation estates built during the colonial period. Some remain active, others have been reclaimed by vegetation. Many exist in a fascinating state somewhere between preservation and decay. Walking through them feels like stepping into a forgotten chapter of history. Grand colonial buildings emerge from tropical greenery. Old railway tracks disappear into the jungle. Weathered structures tell stories without speaking. They are beautiful. They are haunting. And they remind visitors that paradise often contains complicated histories. But if history explains how São Tomé and Príncipe developed, geography explains why the country feels so unique. The islands were born from fire. They sit along the Cameroon volcanic line, a chain of volcanic formations stretching across parts of Central and West Africa. Millions of years ago, volcanic activity created these islands from the ocean floor. The result is spectacular. Sharp peaks rise dramatically above the rainforest canopy. Cliffs plunge toward the sea. Volcanic formations create unusual coastlines. Some landscapes appear almost prehistoric. One landmark in particular captures visitors' imaginations. Pico Cal Grande. Its name translates roughly to Great Dog Peak. Rising nearly 1,000 feet above the surrounding terrain, it resembles a giant stone needle thrust into the sky. Photographs often struggle to convey its scale. The formation appears so unusual that many first-time viewers assume it has been digitally altered. Yet, it is entirely real. A volcanic plug left behind after surrounding rock eroded away over millions of years. It stands as one of Africa's most extraordinary geological landmarks. And remarkably few people have ever seen it in person. The same could be said for much of the country. Large portions of São Tomé and Príncipe remain covered by rainforest, not secondary forests, not recently replanted landscapes, but ecosystems containing extraordinary biodiversity. Scientists often describe islands as natural laboratories of evolution. Isolation encourages species to develop unique characteristics. São Tomé and Príncipe are no exception. Mist drifts through mountain forests. Waterfalls emerge from dense vegetation. Rare species move through habitats largely untouched by large-scale development. In some places, it genuinely feels as though modern civilization is very far away. Of course, nature is only part of the story. The people of São Tomé and Príncipe have created a culture shaped by centuries of African, Portuguese, and Creole influences. Portuguese remains the official language, but local identities reflect far more complex histories. Food reflects the island's geography. Fresh fish, tropical fruits, coconut, breadfruit, bananas, spices, simple ingredients transformed into distinctive cuisine. Visitors often comment on how relaxed life feels. There is a slower rhythm here, not because people lack ambition, but because priorities can be different. Conversations take time, meals take time, relationships take time. In many ways, São Tomé and Príncipe operates at a pace that much of the modern world has forgotten. And perhaps that's another reason the islands leave such a strong impression on visitors. They offer something increasingly rare: space. Not merely physical space, mental space. The absence of crowds, the absence of constant urgency, the absence of endless competition for attention. Ironically, one reason tourism remains limited is accessibility. Reaching São Tomé and Príncipe is not always easy. There are relatively few international flights. The country lacks the extensive tourism infrastructure found in many more famous destinations. Some travelers see these limitations as drawbacks. Others see them as advantages, because difficulty creates exclusivity. Not the luxury resort version of exclusivity, the genuine version, the kind that comes from simply being hard to reach. And history suggests that places like this rarely stay hidden forever. Many of today's famous destinations were once overlooked. Before the guidebooks, before the influencers, before the cruise ships, there was a time when they existed quietly beyond mainstream tourism. São Tomé and Príncipe may be experiencing a similar moment, a brief period where travelers can still feel like explorers, not because the islands are undiscovered. People have lived here for centuries, but because they remain largely undiscovered by global tourism. Yet despite its relative obscurity, the country continues to move forward. Since gaining independence from Portugal in 1975, São Tomé and Príncipe has navigated the challenges faced by many small nations: economic development, environmental protection, infrastructure improvements, balancing modernization with preservation. There are no easy solutions, but there is determination and there is optimism. As the sun sets over the Gulf of Guinea and fishing boats return to shore, it's easy to understand why those who visit become passionate advocates for the country. Not because it is perfect, no place is, but because it offers something increasingly uncommon: authenticity. The beaches are beautiful, the forests are extraordinary, the history is fascinating. But what many travelers remember most is the feeling of having found a place that still surprises them, a place that still feels real. In a world where travel sometimes becomes a checklist, São Tomé and Príncipe invites something different: curiosity, patience, wonder. The islands don't demand attention. They don't market themselves aggressively. They don't compete for headlines. They simply exist. Volcanic mountains rising from the Atlantic. Rainforest sheltering rare species. Communities shaped by complex histories. A nation quietly waiting beyond the usual tourist routes. And perhaps that is the greatest mystery of all. Not why so few people visit, but how such an extraordinary place remains one of the least visited countries in the world. For now, at least, São Tomé and Príncipe remains one of travel's best kept secrets. A reminder that even in the 21st century, there are still places capable of making us feel like explorers. Places where every journey carries a sense of discovery. Places that prove the world still has surprises left. And for those willing to venture beyond the familiar, few surprises are as rewarding as these remarkable islands in the middle of the Atlantic.